Hey, check out these patch notes from the Pre-Patch Podcast.
We have become the source, and I am saying this without any kind of credible knowledge that points that we are the source, but we are the source of all your Microsoft Activision update when it comes to the buyout. And
It's
we
true. We
have
actually have a direct line
we do.
to Phil Spencer,
Yep, yep. Um,
allegedly.
and
We tried to get a
so
direct line to Jim Ryan, but he's doing Jim Ryan things.
right,
We
he
gave
wanted
Jim Ryan a
he wanted
we gave Jim
exclusivity.
Ryan a 10-year exclusivity deal, and he said no. He
That
didn't
was
want it.
it. Yep. So
So Phil Spencer got us.
Um, if you're unfamiliar with what we're talking about, obviously Microsoft is trying to buy Activision. This has been an ongoing thing for a little over
A
a
while,
year,
dude.
right? Yeah, right.
Yeah, a
Yeah.
I
little
think.
over a year, I think.
And it's been back and forth, and everybody basically said that if it fails in the EU, it is going to fail across the board. Microsoft has okay, well, it's not official that it has been approved, but basically it is reported that it will now be approved in the EU because of all of the things that Microsoft, and I'll say to Sony, like Sony obviously is I'm sure catalyst a lot of these things that have been said and been changes and forced. So, the kudos that I will give to Sony out of this is that I think that they at least forced Microsoft to uh, really kind of make sure that they were going to keep to their word of saying, "Hey, we are going to make this on multiple platforms. We're not just going to suck this up and be done with it." Not to say that Microsoft was going to do that anyway, but at least
It at
they,
least clarified it to the world in a
yeah,
very legally binding
Well,
way.
the thing that cracks me up is that, like, we talk about them clearing it to the world. Microsoft for, like, and granted, you can say, yeah, they could go on, they could go back on their word. So, like, granted, if they have contractual obligations for it, that's one thing. But, like, Microsoft has been saying that they're willing to give Sony the ability to have it on their console for
Yeah.
a long time. They've been like, we're not pulling it. Like,
Yeah,
what
nearly
the
I'm
4
fuck
not.
is wrong with you?
I'm not
going.
talking about. I'm not talking about what they've said with Sony. I'm talking about like Nintendo getting a chunk of this,
Yeah,
Nvidia
well,
getting a
one
chunk of
hundred
this.
percent.
Like,
Yeah,
I don't know if
well,
that would have
that's
happened
what I'm
without Sony
saying.
pushing it. Um,
I don't know. Maybe not. I don't know.
I mean, again, like I said, we only have
Yeah.
speculation, but I think Bill
Yeah.
hit it on the nose when it's like it made it publicly known on paper. Like it's not something that's just kind of in a tweet somewhere, that someone's like, nah, maybe, kind of thing. Um, so the EU is expected to basically let this go through, and to say, yeah, we're good to go here. The other news that happened with this is that on top of that, a US FTC judge ruled that Sony has to provide documents to Microsoft revealing exclusivity contracts from January 2019 onwards as part of their investigation into the deal. The Why this is a big thing is because
I think it's
when it,
great, dude.
Sony went into these arguments being like, no, we have exclusivity to this point. We have exclusivity to this point. We have exclusivity to this point, but never had to give any kind of documents proving it. And now because and whether this is Sony's blunder or not, or somebody is looking at Jim Ryan going, you motherfucker, because
Uh,
not only does this open up the exclusivity rights with Activision and all it also opens up doors for Microsoft if they wanted to be assholes about this to be like, what else do you have that's coming exclusive? Like, what else is going to be exclusive in your whole lineup? It's not just. I think people are saying like, oh, this is just around, the Activision and the no, this is around like, what does Sony have in its coffers for exclusivity? Period.
I am waiting for something to happen that exposes the Sony Square Enix deal because I'm
Yeah.
still banking like on the fact I don't want it to happen, but I'm still banking on the fact that as soon as this deal goes through within 6 months to a year, Square is going to be bought up by Sony. I
Yeah.
still believe
Yeah.
that is going to be the case, and this hearing here is the only reason it hasn't happened yet.
Mhm.
And I'm waiting
Yes.
for something to
Well,
happen that forces that to become like come to the light.
and on top of that, did you guys see the? I think it was last week or the week before. I can't remember. I don't think we covered it last week because we had too much shit going on. But did you see where they brought out that if it wasn't on, if Call of Duty wasn't on PlayStation, they feel that they would essentially their company would be broken because PlayStation or Call of Duty is like a huge sale for their consoles.
Yeah.
Yes, I did read that. They were attributing Call of Duty sales to their ability to produce the AAA
Yeah,
titles that they do. And
yeah.
without the funds from Call of Duty, they are not going to be able to make the exclusive content that they do from their studios.
I just
Good.
Good.
that baffles me, man. That baffles me, dude. I'm just like, are you fucking kidding me right now? Like, really?
Well,
Whatever.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's
Thanks, Sony.
and it's nuts. I think we've all said this, right? Like at a certain point, Sony needs to just stop. Like they
Yeah.
just, I
Well,
think,
they're just looking worse and worse as the
well,
weeks go on.
it's
at this
not even
point.
even just in the public sentiment. You are now really doing some damage. Because like look, let's not hide it. Right, exclusivity is a big deal, right? These things are a big deal. Exclusivity, a lot of people just skip over when it comes to what this FTC ruling is. And even though, and the update I will give there too is that they're saying that the FTC judge is denying Microsoft's motion to get information on Sony's executive team. That's fine, but it still has the precedence via like law to say what is happening behind closed doors when you're talking exclusivity, and that includes what companies are you going to buy, right? Because exclusivity is there. So like Bill's talking about with Square Enix or whatever else, like if From Software is in the mix, like you are handing over to like the known largest entity in the space with all of the money, right? That could essentially buy your company out. You're giving them say like the playbook of going, this is what I'm about to go do, right? And if they just want to be like, all right, cool, I know it now. Like I know what you're gonna do now. Like it's dangerous territory, man. Somebody needs to fucking shackle Jim Ryan and be like, you're done. You're done. You're done. No more.
Jim Ryan needs to go to bed. In all honesty, like he has done nothing since this whole hearing started than damage the small amount of goodwill that Sony had to its fan base.
Yeah, it's crazy. I think
And
Microsoft is.
I do fear for what could potentially happen with this because there's a lot of studios under the Sony umbrella that are very passionate about the products that they make, and I don't want to see them caught in the crossfire of this corporate BS.
I mean, yeah, I
feel
don't.
like, but if they were to, they would probably just end up getting bought out by another company.
Well, I
like
think what Bill is saying is the companies that are already underneath their umbrella, right?
right.
That this is causing casualties of war because you're trying to
Yeah,
continue to fight this battle when
and we don't know how much Sony is like exaggerating on things with. It concerned me genuinely that they said that Call of Duty was the reason they were able to produce the first party AAA games like they did, like God of War, like their Last of Us, like that kind of content. And
Do you
for the
think that's
most part,
true?
I,
Like,
I don't
do
know.
you think that's yeah?
It's interesting to think about. I would like to think that the sales of those games on their own would fund future products, but you never know. There is something to be said about the level of quality from a lot of Sony first party IPs, whether you enjoy them or not. They do put their like full effort into it, and most of those ports come out very solid, and they're pushing graphical points that other gaming companies aren't. It's weird. I think there's growth there that is good for the industry. That if they are neutered in a way, it could be detrimental, and we could be falling into a I don't know.
I
I'm
mean,
trying to think of the proper way to say it. I think there is a lot of push forward that Sony first party games do for the industry as a whole, not just for Sony titles.
well, I think a lot of this has to do with Sony's, and we've talked about this, Sony's ideology around gaming. Like, they took forever to get into the PC space, right? Where Microsoft was like, we're going to dump money into the PC space. I think
They're
that
still taking forever to get into the PC space. Like,
right,
they're
but,
still not entirely
what,
there.
what I will give
Dabbling in
Sony,
it at the
what I'll
moment.
give Sony credit to is that their PC ports, minus the Spider-Man one, Miles Morales, has been phenomenal, right? Like the best ports I have ever played, you know, of any of these the games that are out there. So like, I I I understand their reason to take forever to get into it, but at the same time, like that is detrimental. And I do think that the way that Sony is looking at it is going, this sells Call of Duty sells consoles, right? Whether you like it or not, Call of Duty exclusivity sells consoles. From there, I can then bank and say, yes, I know that out of that, we've got this many consoles on the market. Let's just say 60% of those players will probably buy God of War, you know, whatever else. So I can bank on this amount of money, right? Like it's just you're hedging your bet here to be able to, you know, to be able to pay for bills over on this side and using something like Call of Duty to bolster that. Is that a good business practice? Absolutely not. Right. Which is, I think, why we're seeing PlayStation and Sony move into these like other areas of funding this kind of stuff, because it's not going to work forever. Like it just can't. So I don't know. This is all interesting times. I mean, consoles don't make money. Like selling consoles don't make money. It is the games that you have exclusivity to, you know, push driving and selling of games and
Yeah.
you know, so.
And I think at the end of the day, this is like doom theory. I don't think anything from this deal is going to be as detrimental as what we're alluding to here, but it is fun to think of like best or worst case scenarios. I have a feeling after this deal is said and done, Microsoft could potentially be like forced to re-offer Sony that 10-year deal. And I think that they would do it regardless, just because 70% of the Call of Duty player base is a
Yeah.
PlayStation player base.
I don't think it's a good move. Like I've said this from the start, even when they first did the acquisition. It's not a good move for Microsoft to pull that.
No,
Like,
because
it's not a good move for them because they're making money off of
making a
not
lot of
only the sales off of their console, but they're making the sales off of Sony's console as
consoles.
well
No,
without having to do anything about it other than
making
provide it.
off of
Yeah.
Sony's
Yeah.
console sales.
It just it makes no sense to me why. And the bigger thing that makes no sense to me is why fucking Sony wouldn't just be like, yeah, we'll take the 10-year deal. Granted, I get it, you know,
Yeah.
100%. I understand that they're looking at it like, well, if we can get this wrestle this out of Microsoft's hands, you know, maybe we can get it, you know. Which that
I
to
don't
me
even think
is-
they're interested in it. I
You
don't
don't
think
think
they
so?
I don't think
No,
they
I
have the
don't think
capital to do it.
70% of console or 70% of COD players are on their fucking player or on their.
I don't think they
their
have the
console.
ability.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's no world for them where they could plop down that amount of money, and then on top of that, there's no way that if this didn't get passed through with Microsoft buying it, that Sony could then go around and pick it up. Like there's no that does not
Sony
exist.
doesn't
Well, I
have
don't
the
think-
capital.
I don't think there is anymore. Yeah, after all this shit, but I think that when they first started arguing about it, they were maybe looking at maybe
Mm,
purchasing it.
Dude, there's they're not willing to throw
They
down
don't have
70
that
billion.
chunk.
They couldn't
Yeah.
have done it in the beginning. They couldn't do it now. Even in their best months, I don't even think that they could throw down 70 billion to buy Activision.
Yes. Sony's
no.
net worth as of March
Yeah.
this year, like as of yesterday, is 103 billion.
Yeah,
That,
They
that
don't
would
have the net worth.
That's I mean, they
But
just,
what I'm saying is that prior to Sony or Microsoft purchasing that, putting down the 69 billion or whatever it was, right? You don't think that Sony was entertaining the idea of throwing out some money?
Well, I think that they were probably throwing a number, and I think Microsoft said, "Go home, little boy. You don't have
Yeah.
the
I
fucking
100%,
capital."
yeah.
Microsoft
And that's
threw the
that's
fuck
where
you money out
that's
there.
that's what I'm saying is that you don't think that they threw out a little bit of money and Microsoft
I
went,
mean, yeah, I'm sure that
that's pocket change, bro. Here you go. You can take that right there.
I'm sure that they did, but again, at the time, you're like, yes, essentially, Microsoft came and said, "Sir, I have the money to buy you. Like, I literally spent your
times
almost your fucking entire net worth on this one deal. Go away." Like,
Yeah.
So, and Jim
They should
Ryan
be-
got
they should be
fucking
grateful
hurt.
that Microsoft is even throwing them these scraps of this deal.
Well,
Like, honestly.
It's still terrifying that a company with that much marketing value could potentially buy up the industry if allowed.
It is. I'm at least glad though. I feel like it's Microsoft because I think they are in it for, you know, the consumer. They're not just in it for like all of
Everybody's
think-
in it
I-
to the consumer until they're the only fish in the pond.
I think that Phil
Good point, that's
Spencer is
fair,
in
yeah.
it for the consumer. I will not say that Microsoft is in it for the consumer. Like I am a Phil Spencer advocate but I'm not a company advocate of that. Like I don't think, like Bill said, like Microsoft will once they are the head honcho, what do they give a fuck, right? Like it doesn't really matter at that point. I think
Yeah.
both of these companies, Microsoft first and foremost, are seeing the end times of the console war and realizing that they've got to go digital and we got to go digital fast. And I think Sony is lagging behind, and where Microsoft is saying, you know, hey, look, fuck it, we'll put it wherever we need to. Like we're gonna buy the companies. We're not a console company, right? And these buyouts are not done, right? We're gonna see more. I would not be shocked if we see Ubisoft get picked up, EA get picked up, if we see, you know, From Software, Square Enix, like all of these things get picked up. And the way that they're going to combat being a monopoly is they're going to say, we're not in the fucking, we're a publisher. Like we're a publishing company. We're not a fucking game. Like we're not a hardware company. We don't give a shit. Like it's not on Xbox. It's everywhere else. So it's not on Sony. It's everywhere else. You know what I mean? So that's,
Yeah. I think in a perfect world, Microsoft and Xbox itself becoming like the world's largest third-party producer wouldn't be a bad world to live in. Genuinely.
yeah, get it away from Nexon, Tencent, and all the other ones. I fucking can't stand them.
This
So-
this just sparked something in my head. Speaking of like companies getting picked up, what do you think about Riot getting picked up? You see
They,
a world
dude,
that happens.
no, because Tencent owns them, and Tencent,
Tencent,
no, wait,
I thought they only owned a
They
stake.
only own a little bit of it. Yeah.
they own majority control of it.
Okay.
Oh, I thought they only had like a.
I thought it was
portion of
only a
Nah.
portion. Yeah.
They own majority control of Riot. Like they know there's the scary thing is, what if Tencent decides they want to get into this game? Like if they
Yeah.
really want to start doing it, Tencent could buy them
They
all
could.
out.
Tencent is, and we talk about like monopolies before with Sony and Microsoft, and you look at like Tencent, Embracer Group, and everything like that. Like that's the
That's
shit that I'm
scary,
like,
bro.
why is nobody talking about Embracer Group?
Because
Embracer Group is terrifying too.
Like,
Not
why is
because
nobody talking about fucking?
Because
I
they
don't
haven't
have
made anything
shit.
high profile. They've just made
Yeah.
100 small profile ones.
We're not even
Yeah.
again, like we talked about, they're not there's no console, there's no hardware. What they are just a publisher. They can hide behind I'm a publisher, right? Like that's it. So the governments are not going to look at it and go, because they don't understand the space, right? Like they just you got a bunch of people up there that are, you know, 4 times my age and our age up there making laws about this kind of shit that don't even understand how to turn on a fucking iPhone.
Hey, if you enjoyed this clip, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. You can catch our podcast Thursday night at 10:30 Eastern Standard Time. Also, you can find us on anchor.fm/prepatch podcast. We hope to catch you on the next one. Deuces.